are all very pleased with the economic turnaround story of Pakistan and the macroeconomic stability that has been achieved in Pakistan. I'm not going to go through the numbers because as practitioners, you know those numbers very well. But I've always said macroeconomic stability is not an end in itself, it's a means to an end. Where do we go from here? And the other thing that some of them mention, that they are pleasantly surprised at the speed with which this has happened and the levels that we have achieved, whether it's on the inflation side, the policy rate, other macro indices that you know well. The second consistent message, stay the course. Because as a country, we have been here before. We have achieved macroeconomic stability in yesteryears and in the previous decades as well. But we have squandered those opportunities because it's always very easy to get into what I call sugar rush, pump liquidity into the market, go for consumption-led growth, and then whatever transpires after that, you know it as much as I do, right? We get into an import, because it's an import-dependent economy, we have an FX issue, we get into a balance of payment problem, we go running back to the lender of last resort, and therefore there's a reason why we are in the 24th IMF program. So if we have to break this cycle, and we will break this cycle, let's be very clear about this, because I think all of us have had enough of boom and bust cycles. So उसके लिए जो मैसेज आ रहा है, जो हमें भी समझ आता है, इसमें कोई इतनी रॉकेट साइंस नहीं है कि हमें समझ ना आए कि when we say we stay the course, it's in terms of the structural reforms which are underway at this point in time. On the taxation side, people, process, technology, और ये मैं आपको बड़े यकीन से कह सकता हूँ कि टेक्नोलॉजी वाली जो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन है, the end-to-end digitalization of FBR is being led by private sector. Is being led by the private sector. If you look at the board of Paral, तो उसका जो majority है और जो chairman है वो they're all from the private sector. The lead director from there who is sort of overseeing this whole transformation in terms of end-to-end digitalization is from the private sector. Karan, I'm very grateful to you and your team, the way you are playing a role in terms of helping, supporting, assisting that transformation. Because with transformation इतनी important है कि अगर हमने transparency लानी है, अगर we are going to stop the theft, leakage, corruption, the only way to do it is by reducing the human intervention in everything that we do in FBR. And of course, the process is very important, which we are trying to do, especially in terms of simplifying the returns and the tax forms of the salaried class. So हमारी पूरी कोशिश है कि 70-80% of the salaried class actually don't necessarily hold equity portfolios or fixed income portfolios. उनकी income जो है, उन salary उनके account में गिरती है, वो source पे deduct हो जाती है. Why do they have to fill 140, 150 जो उसके various measures हैं? We're trying to bring it down to 9 items, 5 on the wealth side, 4 on the income tax side, and that too if we can auto-populate. So that's our attempt that before we get to end of September, we get this one done. So इसमें काफ़ी जो reform है वो इसमें चल रही है. Energy side पे obviously Minister Lagari and Minister Ali Parvez are leading from the front. उसकी कुछ चीज़ें आपके सामने आ चुकी हैं, and we will stay the course. The SOE reforms, there are 24 SOEs which have been handed over to the Privatization Commission. This is one area where we did not do well last year, because it's also important to acknowledge where we do need to do more. So under the leadership of advisor Mohammed Ali Saab, we are going to accelerate that whole discussion. And as you know, PIA as a transaction has been relaunched. And we are very hopeful, inshallah, we will see it through the finishing line this time around. And then there are 3 discos, there are some FIs and other institutions which are now with the Privatization Commission, and I'm sure you'll see traction on that front as well. Then on the public finance side, it's very important कि जो भी हम कर रहे हैं, right sizing of the federal government, we are taking it in waves rather than a big bang approach. We will continue on that journey. Pension की बड़ी बात होती है, लोग भूल जाते हैं कि in the civil bureaucracy, as of July 1 of last year, every new colleague who's joining is on defined contribution. Because people say, where is the pension reform? Well, here is, we still have to deal with the stock, but we've at least stopped the bleeding. और इसी तरह काम शुरू होता है कि bleeding ख़त्म करें और फिर stock को उसको कोशिश करें कि उसको कैसे manage किया जाए. On the debt service side, that is the single largest expense item. पहली बात तो ये है कि government को अपना fiscal discipline लाना है. Fiscal discipline आएगा, borrowing कम होगी, debt servicing कम होगी. So it starts with us. And we are doing our level best. In this fiscal year, our debt servicing cost has gone down by ₹1 trillion. And next year, what we are going to do, inshallah, is to restructure and reorganize our debt management office along modern lines in terms of international best practices, जो हमें बहुत पहले और बहुत अरसा पहले कर लेना चाहिए था. But it's never too late to just keep on saying कि जी ये हमें inherit हो गया, अब इसका क्या करें. So उसका एक तो वो हम उसको करेंगे. We are looking at various models in terms of front office, middle office, back office, and how we, as I said, organize the debt management office around along modern lines. And the other thing is to see how we create the alpha. ये थोड़ा सा technical term है, which is fine. आप सारे technical लोग हैं, इसलिए अगर एक policy rate नीचे होता है और उसी के हिसाब से डेट सर्विसिंग नीचे चली जाती है, तो उसका मेरा या किसी और होने का वहाँ कोई भी यहाँ बैठ सकता है, कोई भी बैठ सकता है. So unless we add value by creating alpha, that's where the debt management office comes in, that's where the finance ministry comes in. And we are very determined, inshallah, that we move in that direction during the next fiscal year. देखिए ये वो सारी चीज़ें हैं in terms of the structural reforms which puts us and our economy on a path of sustainable growth. और उसमें जो सारी export led की discussion हो रही है, that's very important because that is where fundamentally the DNA of the economy has to change, and therefore we are going to bring some bold measures during the budget. Because budget is not just about revenue and expenditure. Budget has to be providing the strategic direction of where the economy is and where it is headed. Not only about next year, but at least signaling where we want to go as an economy. तो हमारी पूरी कोशिश है कि इस डॉक्यूमेंट को हम इस दफ़ा थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा strategic बनाएं rather than making the math work. Of course we have to make the math work, right? वो तो होना ही होना है. लेकिन उसकी जो strategic direction है कि हम जा किस सर पे रहे हैं, वो उसको बीच में इनकैप्सुलेट करना बहुत ज़रूरी होगा. देखिए ये सारी चीज़ें जो मैंने अभी बात की है, this inshallah will put us on good stead over in the coming years. But जो मुल्क का potential है, जो आप सब बातें भी करते हैं, वर्ल्ड बैंक की भी रिपोर्ट है कि 2047 तक, चलिए अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह हमारी इकॉनमी $400 बिलियन तो टापी ना, तो अच्छा, I think it's in the right going in the right direction because we were still talking about $300 billion plus economy. So I think that in itself is good news. But if you have to go towards a $3 trillion economy by the time we get to be 100, उसमें दो existential issues हैं. दो existential issues हैं. Population and climate. If we continue to grow at 2.55%, it's going to be very difficult. अगर 25 करोड़ अवाम से जो हमारे मसाइल हैं, आपके मसाइल हैं, उनमें हमारे लिए बहुत issues हैं. Just imagine if we get to 300 or whatever the projection is कि 400 की ये population हो जाएगी by the time we get to 2050. Can you imagine? So that's one. And then the climate. So climate is not only episodic stuff and the sad and devastating floods of 2022. All of us who are in Islamabad and other, ये जो रोज झकड़ चल रहे हैं और जालाबारी हो रही है, we are living it day in and day out. You don't have to look at episodic events, खुदा ना खास्ता. So this is all climate change. So it's in that respect, and that will bring me to the topic at hand, that when we prioritize as a government कि जब हमने वर्ल्ड बैंक से बात की, एंड आई एम वेरी ग्रेटफुल टू प्रेसिडेंट अजय बंगा एंड और IMF से बात की, इक्वली ग्रेटफुल टू MD क्रिस्टलीना, कि इस दफ़ा जो हम इश्यूज़ आपके पास लेकर आ रहे हैं, ऑफ कोर्स वी स्टिल नीड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एंड वी नीड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चरल सपोर्ट. हमें चीज़ें करनी हैं, हमें पावर प्लांट्स भी हैं और रोड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर भी है, पोर्ट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर भी है. But if we don't address the human capital, and if we don't address the climate part of it, at least in terms of beginning to move towards adaptation financing, we're not going to get there. So the 10-year country partnership framework that we signed with the World Bank on 15th of January, 4 out of the 6 points deal with climate and population. On the population side, usko और थोड़ा सा हम उसको granular लेकर आए हैं, in terms of learning poverty, in terms of girls and women out of school, young women out of school. And the second thing is child stunting. So children under the age of 5, 40% of them stunted. Just imagine, just think about it. All of us are going to fade away. That's the leadership of this country. And if 40% is in that state, how can we move forward? How can we get talking about $1 trillion and $3 trillion? तो इसलिए हमने उसको इस दफ़ा प्रायोरिटाइज किया कि हमें जो फंडिंग चाहिए, एंड दिस इज़ नॉट स्मॉल. द 10-year country partnership framework is going to be $20 billion. And on the back of that, whatever IFC is going to do on the private sector side. And similarly, ये जो अभी 2 हफ्ते पहले हुआ है, and of course, these are very tense moments. Our armed forces and political leadership, the way they stood up against the aggression, the entire nation has celebrated it, and rightly so. But at the same time, there was no stone left unturned in terms of ensuring that the meeting does not happen. If the meeting does happen, then these items are not on the agenda. Whether it's the second tranche under the EFF and the RSF of $1.3 billion in terms of our climate resilience facility. But alhamdulillah, we are beyond that. और हमारा केस जो है वो मेरिट पे डिस्कस हुआ, मेरिट पे डिसाइड हुआ. तो आई थिंक इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि अब हमने इन चीज़ों को प्रायोरिटाइज किया है. एंड द वर्ल्ड अंडरस्टैंड्स इट दैट द कंट्री नीड्स this in terms of the human capital and the climate bit of it. Now that's where all of you come in, because I think we have once again centers of excellence in verticals. इस मुल्क की जो corporate philanthropy है वो कमाल की है. Health and education in number of ways is because of the corporate philanthropy. There's no two ways about it. और हम खुल के देते हैं और इन causes को support करते हैं. इसी तरह there are various other areas इसमें जो commercial banks भी कर रहे हैं, जो DFIs कर रहे हैं, the other institutions in the in the NBFI space, they're all doing whatever you are doing, and I would say keep on doing, right? Because everything matters. But the reality is what? और फिर जो government है वो भी allocate करती है, the social protection program, because when people go below the poverty line, this year as well, the Benazir income support program will see a large delta as we go into the next fiscal year. So all of us are contributing in our own ways. The issue that I see since the time that the Prime Minister has formed this task force, and I'm very grateful, first of all, to organize this. I'm very grateful to you, sir, for being here and providing this training. I wish I could sit in some of these training sessions, but there are other pressing matters which I have to attend to, but I would have loved to. But Adnan is here, he will, and other colleagues are here who will brief me. The issue is in many, like many other efforts, while we do a lot of things in verticals, we don't go horizontal. And if we don't go horizontal, we are not able to scale it up. Issue हमारा है scaling up का. क्योंकि मैंने जब ये अभी 3-4 इसके सेशंस हो चुके हैं, And what I've seen is, everyone comes, presents their bit, and their bit actually looks all very good. In certain instances, we are grateful to some of our partners who have provided us funding, financing, technical support for interventions. And those have been very good interventions. उसमें कुछ ये भी था कि एक इंटरवेंशन तो बड़ी अच्छी थी बिकॉज उसमें फिर बाद में we were also told what impact it made in terms of getting some of those people out of the poverty line and getting into self-sufficiency mode. But two things. One, the population, as it's fine, the intervention was very successful, but the population itself, वो बिल्कुल ऐसी थी कि you compare it to 240 million people, or you compare it to people who are below the poverty line, it's not going to make a difference. That's one. Secondly, जब मैंने पूछा कि जब इसको हम आगे कैसे लेके जाना है, इसको अब scale up कैसे करना है, तो there was no answer. Because ये तो हमें funding मिली थी, वो funding ख़त्म हो गई, बड़ा अच्छा काम हो गया, हमने उनको report कर दिया. But that's not how, we are going to get out of this, this whole discussion. So I don't know the content of your training, but from my perspective, first of all, if we can bring all of these efforts together, not in terms of me doing their work and they're doing my work, in certain instances, if their DFI is represented here, for some of them, it's very simple. They have to go back to their core function. Not commercial lending, not lending to the Treasury and the government of Pakistan and making risk-free returns, but to do what they are supposed to do in terms of their raison d'etre and their core function. And I've had meetings late last year with their managements and obviously the sponsors, both the government of Pakistan and our friendly countries who have very kindly joined hands with us in that arena. But they have to go back to their core functionality. It's as simple as that. And it's like saying everyone in this country should pay taxes, right? Because otherwise, I see Mr. Shivaz Rana sitting here. He's not going to, like the whole discussion around the salaried class, and if we go back to the salaried class, the same for more, right? So, and he's right. He's right. So therefore, we have to ensure that whoever is supposed to do and whatever they're supposed to do, they do it, because that's how societies come together. And the way we have come together, as I said, around this unfounded aggression and the unity that the nation has shown, we want the same unity on the economic front. I'm pleading for the same unity on the economic front. If we are going to go forward, inshallah, and become part of Committee of Nations. So I think one is how we work together with each other, because going horizontally, and while there are interdependencies, let's think through those interdependencies between the private sector, the government sector, NBFIs, corporate philanthropy, etc. And the second thing is, and I do, just flicking through some of your curriculum, that it's going to be impact-led. Because I think it's very important that when we are at a design phase, it's at that point in time, we are very clear what are going to be the outputs, because those outputs and the KPIs are then ultimately going to determine the impact. And if we don't have the impact, and if we don't have the impact at scale, we will still be suboptimal in terms of the efforts that we are making. I wish everyone all the very best for the next couple of days. I look forward to seeing the results of this workshop. Mr. McElvey, I'm very, again, indebted to you to bring international best practices here and what we can learn and how we can sort of take this discussion forward. Vikas on Karandaz and Salim Raza Sahab, We are working with you on number of measures, number of initiatives. We remain very grateful to you and the Gates Foundation. I met them in Washington and expressed my gratitude there as well, because funding is one part of it, but the technical support. And I keep on saying that what we need in this country is capacity building. Financing, as a finance minister, I can never be complacent about financing, but it's all about capacity building, coming up with investable, bankable projects on the investment side, and creating the right roadmap and incentivization schemes for all our players to take social impact financing forward. Once again, thank you, Ji.
वफाकी वज़ीर ख़ज़ाना मोहम्मद औरंगज़ेब इस्लामाबाद में तकरीब से खिताब कर रहे थे। उन्होंने कहा कि दुनिया पाकिस्तान की मौशी बेहतरी का एतराफ़ कर रही है। पॉलिसी रेट में नुमाया कमी के मईशत पर मुस्बत असरात मुरतब हुए हैं। दुनिया पाकिस्तान की मौशी बेहतरी की रफ्तार पर हैरान है। उन्होंने कहा कि टैक्स निज़ाम और तवानाई समेत दीगर शोबों में इस्लाहात ला रहे हैं। FBR में इंसानी मुदाखलत कम होने से शफाफियत आएगी।